All TIG welded.
It's all TIG welded.
All TIG welded.
Yes. I use a combination of silica bronze and stainless steel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Silica bronze.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
You know, the original cars were all nickel bronze welded.
Yeah.
Silica bronze is the TIG version of the nickel bronze.
Nickel bronze,
which
yeah.
you would use an oxyacetylene flame on. Yeah. They're expensive as hell too,
Yeah.
but it's nice and easy to work with.
Yes.
You can get a nice. And the coilovers I made up myself. As I say, I was using bits and pieces. This is a kit that the Honda Civic guys use.
Okay.
They obviously come out of China. Because it's $60 for 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I bought the shock absorbers. These were coils that were left over from other projects. I'm not sure I'm going to even, if they're going to be enough to support the weight of the car.
Yeah.
But they're easy to change. You know, I mean, these are not expensive either.
No.
How long have you been
My own
in?
coilovers.
Ed, how long have you been into this build?
This?
Yeah.
Oh, about 4 months, 5
Oh,
months.
doing well. You're doing well. Yeah.
And I only work in the afternoons, by the way.
Uh-huh.
4 hours every afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I go inside and have a little sleep.
Ah, look at that.
Okay, let's go over to the front suspension.
Okay.
Okay, so what I tried to do was way back, HWM. I'm not even sure who the guys were at HWM, but they built a car called the Stovebolt, which ended up in a movie called The Races, and the car was driven by Kirk Douglas, supposed to be at Le Mans, and he crashes the car, of course, into the casino, the usual Hollywood stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I was fascinated by the car, and I decided to try and replicate that, and this is what you're looking at now,
Wow.
is my version of the HWM. It's a beautiful car. It's back in England now after spending most of its life in the USA, I believe around the Seattle area. And I'm going to try and do my version of that. And this is what we've got so far. What I've done on the front end, I've made my own coilovers.
Where'd you get the plans? Where'd you get the plans from to build something like that?
Oh,
There weren't any
you know,
plans.
no, what you do, you scale, you know the size of the wheels on the car, and then you scale from there. I'm not going to be exact. It's going to be give or take maybe a couple of inches from the original, but the basic concept, the basic look of the car will be that. And because of the rules and regulations here in Canada, I had a hell of a time with the Lister trying to get it registered. I decided to go the way everybody else does. You buy a car, license, register it in your name, pull it apart, and then build your own version of car over that chassis or around that. And this is what I've done. The basics of this car is a Triumph Spitfire. As you can see, there's a Spitfire chassis through the center, and then and then I've created my own frame around that. The front end, the front suspension, is the MGB spindles that I took off the Lister. I've modified them. I took the kingpin bolt out, and I've put Mazda Miata lower ball joints.
Yes.
And I don't know what the top ball joint is. It's just something I happen to have, and it worked fine. And if my geometry is right, I should have about a 3.5-inch roll center in the front, and with the rack and pinion steering. Come to the back, Steve.
Okay.
And the rear suspension is double wishbone. And again, if I've got the suspension and the geometry correct, I should be around about 3.5 to 4 inches at the back with coilover.
Inboard shocks as well, it looks like.
They will be inside the body, but I have a Nissan 240 SX limited slip differential with inboard brakes and calipers on the back, and the gearbox is a 5-speed T5, and I have it coupled up to the Ford Duratec 3-liter, the same engine that's in the Jaguar XJS and XJR and some Mazdas and various other cars. It's the engine that they use in the Noble, the British car, the Noble. Yeah.
You'll get that under the bonnet, yeah?
Yes, that's another reason why I decided to go this way, because the original HWM Stovebolt had a V8 in it with the carburetors on top, and the car is quite a tall car. It is quite high, and I will be sitting quite high in the seat. I'm not going to be sitting on the floor of the car.
No, that's right.
So, and I've got 3 downdraft IDA Webers, which are going to go on the V6 engine, and they will poke up through the top of the hood, and I'll probably put some sort of a scoop or maybe a plexiglass cover over them so that they can be seen.
Lovely.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an Allard, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, the Fraser Nash, Allard,
Yeah.
there's a number of cars that are based all roughly around about that. The Rileys, the old Brooklands Rileys, that style of car. Yeah. So
You're
that's...
going to go with like skinny tires on it as well.
No, actually, I've got 5 wire wheels that are used on the Austin Healey's, the 106 Austin Healey's. So it'll be knock on wire wheels, 205, probably 65 profile by 15 tires.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm looking for somewhere around the 250 brake horsepower, and hopefully I can keep the weight down under 1,500 pounds. So it'll be quite a nice ride. Should be okay.
It will be. Yeah,
Very
and you're
nice
going to go for
indeed.
the aluminium body on it again.
Oh, yes, it's all going to be aluminium, yes, and lots of louvers. I've just recently made my own louver press, and I'm really tickled to death with how nicely they came out. So,
and also, Ed made his own English wheel, and which also doubles as the press to press out the louvers. So Ed made all of this stuff himself, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it is. Which uprights are you using for the rear, Ed?
No, they're fabricated, and they're all going to be the Nissan stuff, the Nissan hubs and Nissan CV joints and drive shafts, which I'm going to have to shorten.
Okay.
But these I manufactured myself with a wide base wishbone because I didn't want to have track rods running forward.
Oh, yeah.
So I spaced the wishbones out quite wide.
Mm-hmm. Lovely.
And the petrol tank, the gas tank will fit over the top of this.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're all in awe. I was just sitting here just taking it all in. Fabulous.
Not sure what I'm going to do about the back end yet. I was just talking to Steve about that. There's so many different ideas, and I don't want it to look like somebody's run up the back end of me, and I don't want it to look like the back end of a bee either.
Yeah.
So I'll leave that until later. We'll figure something out.
You're kind of mocking up the bodywork in like box using wood, and then you'll just
yes. These are the panels that I cut originally, and based everything around these.
And this is the same process you'd use for building that you did use for building up your buck. On the Lister, that's correct. Of course, there were a lot more body panels on the Lister than there is on this. You must have taken quite a few trips to recycling with all the panels that did not fit.
Oh yes, fortunately the recycling yard is just down the road from me, so we're on a first name basis there.
Well, the remarkable thing I find is the fact that you take an idea like looking at the Stovebolt Special and adapting it to what you've got available and working with that. And as Ed pointed out, the back end is not necessarily going to be identical. It's not going to be what Joe wants. It's not what Mike wants. It's a little bit what Ed wants, a little bit of this, but a little bit of that. And it'll evolve into something that will work around all of the components that have to go in. So a process in motion is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's building the dream.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, the other thing I had to do was lengthen the chassis. I've lengthened it 10 inches. You can see where I cut the Spitfire chassis and riveted and then welded in steel plates.
Oh, yes.
And I have the engine mounts because the Spitfire is a very short wheelbase. Mm-hmm. I now have a 7'6" wheelbase.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I was thinking about your neighbours.
about your neighbors again. If a neighbor does leave, can you let me know? Because I want to be your neighbor.
I'm afraid you're going to have to take a number because there's a lineup for that.
Yeah.
Between the two of you, you'd have quite a bit of stuff going on in your combined sheds.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ed, for a visit here. Why don't, if have we kind of wound up here? Would it be possible to go over and take a look at the Lister Jaguar?
Yes, we can do that.
Certainly, I'll follow Ed. Yeah, and I'll keep the camera going.